Come now, sit with me a while. No need to hurry. There's time enough for stillness, just here beside the fire. Yes, that's it. The stones are still warm from the sun's touch earlier, and the flames are kind tonight, not roaring, not needy, but steady. Like an old friend who speaks only in gestures and light. You'll find no urgency here, dear heart. Only space and hush and a place to rest. You've come at a good hour, the kind of hour that draws closer when the world has gone quiet and the sky has wrapped itself in velvet. Look there, just beyond the trees, the towers of the castle shimmer like lanterns half asleep, their windows lit not with grandeur, but with the hush of lives winding down. Candles flicker behind thick stone, weaving little spells of comfort and warmth in private rooms. I like to imagine someone is reading by that light, or simply thinking, or holding silence close as you and I are doing now. And the river, just beyond the bend, do you see how it catches the fire's glow? It moves so slowly tonight, carrying the flame's reflection, as though it were too precious to spill. It reminds me of melted gold, poured from a patient hand and left to cool in motion. That's how this moment feels to me. Not frozen, just resting, just enough. Breathe with me, slowly, if you will. The air carries the scent of ash and pine, and something faintly sweet could be the lavender the stewards planted near the courtyard. It drifts this way on certain nights, when the wind forgets its errands and decides to linger. There's something to be said for this time of night. Wouldn't you agree? When the work is done, the armor loosened, and the world no longer asks anything of us. My hands, they don't ache the way they used to, but they still remember. And so do the stones beneath us. They've held watchmen and poets alike. I think they've come to prefer quiet company such as yours. You've always known when to arrive, dear friend. Never too soon, never too late, just in time to sit with the evening while it exhales. Look above us. The moon is full and bold tonight, but not sharp. There's a softness to its glow, a generosity. It lights the tops of the distant pines and crowns the mountains in silver. There are stars too, though they don't compete. They let the moon have her say, then twinkle gently like old lullabies. You may hear the fire crackling beside us. It's not much, but it's enough. I've always thought flame to be a kind of listener too, speaking in pops and sighs, but never interrupting. It understands rhythm and rest, and how sometimes the warmth we share doesn't need words. Even the shadows here feel safe, don't they? They lean in close, but not to frighten, only to listen. That's what this place is for. Not declarations or decisions, just presence, just breath, and company that asks nothing of you but to be as you are. There's no need for sword or shield tonight, no duties to recall, not even stories to tell, unless you'd like them. You don't have to fill the air with anything. Just let it wrap around you as it is. Let it carry you like a slow tide, pulling gently towards stillness. Sometimes I forget how much I've missed this. Just sitting beside someone who isn't in a hurry to leave. Someone who can share the silence without weighing it down. You do that well. You always have. So lean back if you'd like. Let your shoulders rest. Let the fire warm your toes. Let the night carry its quiet song around you. It will do the rest. The stars are watching. The stones are holding. And I'll be here, just here, keeping the fire company a little longer. Welcome, my dear friend. Welcome home. The river moves gently tonight, my friend. Look there, just beyond the edge of the firelight. Do you see how it glides along, smooth as silk, cradling both flame and moonlight in its quiet arms? It doesn't rush, it doesn't strive, it simply follows its shape, as it always has, weaving between stone and root, reflecting the sky in ripples no wider than your breath. I've always found peace in the company of water, not the crashing sort that tests one's footing, but this river, this ancient stream that slips past the old foundations like a secret kept well. It catches the light from our fire and folds it into silver ribbons that wander downstream, glowing as they go. Even the moon, proud and full above, leans down to touch it, as if to say, I see you, rest well. The breeze has turned again, not harsh, just enough to stir the edges of your cloak, just enough to rustle the grasses behind us. You can feel it on your cheek, can't you? Cool, but kind. It carries the scent of firewood, split and stacked by quiet hands earlier in the day. And there beneath it, yes, the faint trace of those night flowers that bloom only after twilight, their petals folding open like small breaths. You wouldn't see them unless you knew where to look, but the scent finds you all the same. Stone, too, has its own perfume, aged and sun-warmed, washed by seasons. The bricks behind us have stood through more years than I care to count, and each one holds the memory of sunlit mornings and storm-soaked nights. Tonight they lend their warmth to our backs, holding us like an old friend might, silent but steady. Out across the valley the castle glows, not in splendor, no, its firelit windows don't shine with ceremony or noise, but with softness, with the quiet flicker of hearths being tended, candles burning low in study rooms and kitchens alike. Each tower rests like a giant at ease, leaning into the dark with grace. You can just make out the outer walls, the archways that lead to gardens and cellars, the tops of the spires that rise like needles stitched into the fabric of the night. That castle, its stones may be grand, its gates tall, but here from this peaceful place, it looks almost drowsy, almost human, if that makes any sense. As though it too is exhaling. I like it best this way, when the light spills out slow and golden, not for anyone to see, but simply because warmth deserves to be shared, even with the darkness. Look up now, if you'd like. Take your time. There's no rush here. The stars are scattered like ancient seeds across the sky, slow to shimmer, gentle in their watch. They don't compete with one another. Each shines in its own time, in its own measure. Some are faint, like old songs nearly forgotten. Others, brighter, pulse with steadiness, as if beating in time with your own chest. I often wonder how many watched over us long before our names were spoken aloud. They remind me that this world has known many quiet nights, and it will know many more. Can you hear them? The lanterns, they're swaying just beyond the reach of the fire, hung from the low limbs of trees that line the riverbank. Their ropes creak gently with the breeze, a kind of soft music that only the evening knows how to play. The light inside them dances, not wildly but with purpose. Some lanterns hold beeswax candles, others burn slow with oil, and all of them glow the way memories do, warm, steady, and always just slightly out of reach. Sometimes, I think the night arranges these things on purpose. The way the wind folds around the stones, the hush of distant water, the scent of earth and wood smoke mingling like old companions. The stars above, the fire below, and all of it framed in a quiet that never feels empty, only full of peace. Even the shadows tonight are kind. Look how they gather, not to hide but to listen. They stretch across the path, and curl around the base of trees, as though bedding down alongside us. They don't demand to be chased away. They merely exist, like all things in this hour, content and still. You may notice the way the grass bends beneath your legs. It's soft here, mossy in places, touched by dew that's begun to gather. If you run your hand along the earth, you might feel how the cool dampness clings to your fingers, how the blades of grass part and press like tiny voices offering welcome. There's a comfort in that, isn't there? To be held by the land itself, to be part of something ancient and unharmed. Farther off, if you listen closely, there's the occasional chirp from a nightjar in the woods. They sing in little bursts, never loud, never pleading, just enough to say, "I'm here." The trees respond with their own music, leaves brushing against each other, old boughs sighing as they settle for sleep. Even the insects have softened their hums. This is the hour when the world doesn't stop, but rather slows, so that you might catch up to it, or let it pass you by. And if you lean in just a little, I'll tell you something true. This place, this night, it exists not in grand maps or stories told by minstrels. It exists in the quiet you've allowed yourself. It is made each time by your presence. The world does not need to be loud to be full, nor does it need to move to be alive. Sometimes, my dear friend, it simply waits for someone to notice. So notice it now. Notice the way your shoulders feel a touch lighter than before. Notice the steadiness of your own breath. Notice how the fire hasn't changed, and yet it feels closer, like it leans toward you, as if to say, "You belong." Here, in this pause between the day and the dream, the world is not asking anything of you. It is not measuring your worth, nor marking the hours. It is simply being and inviting you to do the same. Let the river carry your thoughts for a while. Let the fire warm your palms. Let the scent of blooming things guide you inward. We've no need for destinations here, only presence, only this moment. And you, dear one, are right where you need to be. It feels good to sit like this, doesn't it? The fire low, the night soft. The stones behind us still holding the day's warmth. I don't mind the quiet anymore. Once, perhaps, when I was younger, when my armor still gleamed from care and not just time, I would have filled these silences with talk or song or duty. But now I find the hush far more companionable. It leaves space for breath and memory. You see, the armor I wear now, it's more for shape than for purpose. The edges are worn smooth where my hands have handled them too often. The straps no longer pull tight. The polish is more for tradition than for threat. I no longer stand watch at the gate. I no longer rise at the clang of a bell. My time of standing has passed. Now, and I have grown to like it. Truly, this wall behind us, it's an old one, not one of those fresh-built arches they've been fond of lately, no. This stone has weathered storms. It's leaned into snow and sun for 100 years, perhaps more. I often sit here when I light the fire, every third night, just as I always have, not because I must, but because I said I would. There's something about the keeping of a small promise when no one's watching. It roots you, grounds you. I made this vow not to another, but to myself, that I'd return to this place, light a flame and simply sit. I don't know what I hope to prove. Perhaps nothing. Perhaps it isn't about proving anything at all. It began, I think, when I realized the world wasn't waiting on me anymore, that no trumpet would sound my name, that no battlement would call for my shield. There's a quiet ache in that at first, like waking from a long-held dream. But then it shifts. You start to notice things again, smaller things, softer things, and in those you find a peace more lasting than any victory I ever raised a sword for. My face. Well, you'll see it's lined now. The kind of lines that come not just from time but from squinting into the sun too many dawns, and smiling in the rain when no one was looking. Lines carved by years spent leaning into wind and learning how to listen to it instead of fight it. I've earned these lines, I think. I wear them without shame. There was a time when I thought youth was what gave me strength, that the broad swing of an arm or the clear sight of a hawk at dusk was what made me who I was. But the truth is, strength changes, it shifts as you do. And now I find it in stillness, in knowing when to sit down, in being able to wait with open hands instead of clenched ones. I no longer walk the walls, I no longer pace before the gate. I no longer carry the weight of 100 watching eyes, but I light this fire, and I keep its company, and that, dear friend, has become enough. The fire is a small thing. Some nights it smokes more than it glows. Other times it flares up sudden and sharp, only to settle into a long amber breath. But always it answers the spark. Always it gives back warmth if you tend it kindly, and in its glow I see things I missed when I was younger. The way shadows fall with grace, the way light curls gently around stone, the way silence feels almost like a heartbeat, steady and close. I suppose this is who I am now, not the knight of banner or charge, but of ember and hush, and I've come to cherish that more than I ever expected to. There's a kind of honor, you see, in choosing to remain, in tending something no one else sees, in lighting a flame when the world isn't asking you to. And there's comfort in knowing that, even without command or title, your presence still carries weight, quiet weight, like a stone warmed by a fire, or a cloak wrapped around someone's shoulders on a cold night. That's what I hope to be now. Not a name sung, but a warmth felt, a steadiness, a softness in a world that rushes too often past the things that matter. Sometimes when I sit here, just like we are now, I let the fire speak first. It crackles, it breathes, it settles into itself, and I let it. I listen, it tells me things, not in words, but in rhythm. It reminds me that there's stillness beneath everything, if you're willing to be quiet enough to hear it. And on these nights, when the moon is high and the world has drawn its blanket over itself, I find I miss very little from the days of sound and fury. I miss less than I thought I would, because here with you beside this old fire and older wall, I have all I need. I have breath, I have warmth, I have memory, and I have someone to share it with. That sips more than enough for me. So thank you, dear friend, for sitting with me, for arriving without fanfare, and for asking nothing but to share the quiet. It suits you, this stillness, just as it suits me. And for as long as the fire burns, you are welcome to remain. You know, this fire, this one right here before us, it isn't just for warmth. Not truly, not anymore. It began long ago, though the years blur now like breath on glass. I remember the night as if it were folded inside a dream, one of those dreams that doesn't start or end but simply settles into you. The walls were quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after too much noise, and I found myself in the upper courtyard, just beyond the kitchens, near the old torch brackets that rarely saw use. It was during the siege, of course. You've heard the stories, I needn't recount the details. They were loud and harsh and full of the kind of fear that lingers in men's bones long after the shouting has stopped. But this isn't a tale of battle. No, this is a story of a promise. A small one, and perhaps the most important one I ever kept. There was a boy. He couldn't have been more than 10 winters old, slight as a shadow and quiet as falling ash. He worked in the kitchens, fetching water, scrubbing stones, stirring broth that never quite boiled. No one called him by name, not often. And yet one night he found me, or perhaps I found him. It's hard to say, really. He was sitting on a stair behind the scullery, legs pulled to his chest, eyes wide, not with tears but with something colder. Not fear exactly, but the kind of hollow watchfulness that only young ones wear when they've seen too much and understand too little. He wasn't crying, just watching. The sky, the walls, the windows above. I sat beside him, didn't speak, not at first. Sometimes silence is the gentlest way to meet someone, and after a time, without turning to look at me, he asked, "Will the lights stay on?" Just that. A child-set's question. And I could have given him a soldier sips answer, or a priest sips, or a lie meant to comfort. But instead, I said, "I sit'll keep one burning, just for you, every third night, even if no one else needs it." He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He just kept looking at the darkened tower above, the one nearest the kitchens. But I remember the way his shoulders eased, only slightly, as if some small thread had loosened across his chest. And that was enough. That promise, spoken on a cold stone stair between shifts and shadows, it stayed with me, like a soft ember tucked inside the folds of memory. So now, here we are, years later, decades, if I'm being honest. The boy has long since gone, off to some other life, I hope. I never saw him grow tall, never knew his voice after it changed, never knew what name he took when he left the walls behind. Every third night, without fail, I've lit a flame on this stretch of stone where the light can be seen from the far side of the keep. Some nights the lighting of it feels ceremonial, sacred. I strike the flint, place the kindling just so, coax the flame to rise like it remembers. Other nights it's a quiet, habitual act, like brushing dust from a ledge or smoothing the fold of a cloak. But always it's done with intention, not for show, not for memory, but because something in me needs to, something soft and steady. It's strange, isn't it, how the smallest promises root themselves deepest. I've sworn oaths in great halls, with banners fluttering above, and voices echoing against marble, but it's this one, this single vow to a nameless kitchen boy, that has held its place in my heart the longest. Not because he asked much of me, but because it was never about being seen. There's a peace in tending to things no one else notices, a quiet purpose, a kind of inward tending, like lighting a lantern in an empty room, not so someone else may find their way, but so that you yourself remember there is still light. I think that's why I kept doing it. Long after the war was over, long after the towers were rebuilt and the kitchens filled with new voices, the boy had gone, the fear had faded, but the flame still had meaning, still had rhythm, and I found comfort in its glow. I found myself perhaps in that small ritual, and now, sitting here with you beside it, I feel the warmth of it in more than just my hands. I feel it in the hush between us, in the way the firelight leans across your face, in the way the night seems to pause and listen as if it remembers too. We often speak of quests, don't we? Of banners raised and roads ridden, of dragons bested and crowns defended. But not all quests are loud. Not all are long roads or high towers. Some happen in the quiet and are never named. Some begin with a frightened child and a soft promise. And some, like this one, end not with victory, but with stillness. This has been my quiet task, my gentle vow to tend a flame not because I must, but because I once said I would, and because it brings me peace to do so. And perhaps, dear friend, perhaps we all have one such promise inside us, one ember we carry, not for the world to see, but to keep ourselves alight. If you have one, I hope it glows steady, and if not, then perhaps tonight you can borrow this one. For as long as you sit here, it's yours as much as mine. We need not speak of it aloud again. The flame remembers. Then thou'll keep tending it. As long as the nights are quiet, as long as my hands remember the way, as long as the stars keep their places in the sky. Every third night, always. There's a certain comfort, isn't there, in letting memory unfold slowly, like parchment warmed by firelight. And tonight, with the river murmuring beside us, and the fire burning low, I find myself reaching gently into those years long past, not for stories of valor or duty, no, but for the quiet things, the soft edges, the moments that linger, not because they were grand, but because they were kind. There was a robin once. She built her nest in the northern ramparts, just beneath a crooked beam near the old watchtower. I used to pass her each morning during my rounds. She was there in every season, fluffed against frost, wings tight against spring rain, chirping low in summer's golden breath. She watched us all, from her little hollow above the stone, not with fear, but with a kind of knowing stillness, as if she understood more than she let on. One morning I brought her crumbs from my heel of bread, not because she needed them, she was clever, that one, but because I liked the way she tilted her head, sharp and patient, as if she were weighing the worth of my offering. She never came down, but the next day the crumbs were gone, and the day after that she left a single down feather tucked beside the spot where I always set them. The fair trade downs it, you think? She stayed 3 winters. Then one spring she didn't return. I still look sometimes when I pass that crooked beam. The wood is darker now, the stone more worn, but I like to believe she found another tower, another soldier who needed reminding that the world still holds small, beautiful things. And there was the librarian, old Rellan, with his ink-stained fingers and robes that always smelled of vellum and cinnamon. He never spoke loudly. In fact, I don't think I ever heard his voice carry above a whisper, even when calling across a courtyard. He moved like wind through parchment, quiet, constant and full of words he never forced upon anyone. We used to sit beneath the stars, he and I, just beyond the outer hall, where the ivy clung thick to the walls. He'd bring a book, and I'd bring a crust of bread or a skin of elderflower cordial, and we'd sit, not to read aloud, but simply to be. Sometimes he'd murmur a passage or two, lines from old poems or forgotten treatises on the stars and their stories. He believed each constellation had once been a person, or perhaps a question the gods hadn't yet answered. One night, he turned to me and said, "The stars aren't high, they're deep. We're the ones resting on the surface." I didn't understand him then. I'm not sure I do now. But I've carried those words ever since, the way one might carry a smooth stone in the pocket, just to feel it now and again, and remember that not all things need explaining to be true. Rellan's gone now. The library still stands, though the roof sags and the oak shelves lean like weary shoulders. But I walk through its halls some nights, just to hear the creak of floorboards, just to breathe in the dust of stories never finished. That, too, is a kind of prayer. There was also a mason, Tarnal. His name was broad-shouldered, quiet-eyed, with hands that bore the shape of his craft. He carved stars, not for decoration, mind you, and never where anyone would see them easily. They were hidden in the undersides of arches, the backs of stairwells beneath flagstones no one was meant to lift. Stone forgets faster than people, he once told me, chipping away at a bit of granite near the western courtyard. So I give it something to hold on to. I found one of his stars just last season, beneath a loose cobble near the well, smoothed by years of passing feet, but still there, still quietly gleaming beneath the dirt and time. It made me smile. Tarnal's hands are long gone now, but his stars remain, not for glory, not for recognition, just for the sake of leaving beauty behind in unexpected places. I think about that often. How many quiet acts go unseen? How many gestures are folded into the corners of the world, where no one thinks to look, but there they are, waiting, waiting to be found, not with eyes, but with attention. And then there's the sound of boots on cold stone in winter. You might think it a lonely sound, but I never did. There's a rhythm to it, measured, reflective. The echo of each step draws the walls a little closer, makes the air feel thicker, more intimate. I remember walking the corridor outside the East Wing late one night, wrapped in my cloak, boots muffled by frost. Every step felt like a breath, every breath like a prayer, not to any god in particular, but to the moment itself, to the stillness. That corridor led nowhere important, just a row of old storage rooms and a forgotten door that never quite closed. But I found peace there. The kind that slips in through the cracks when everything else has gone quiet. The kind that doesn't announce itself. It just settles. Sometimes I think true silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of urgency. The absence of the world needing you to be somewhere, say something, fix or prove or chase. When none of that is asked of you, what remains is not empty. It is full, full of self, full of presence, full of room to feel whatever comes. And in those quiet corridors, I felt whole. There was also the light. Oh, the light. There's a particular way the sun moves through the castle's upper gallery in the late afternoon. It filters through old stained glass, casting red and amber and pale blue shapes across the stone floor. I used to stand there just for a moment and let those colors climb over me like blessings. No one else seemed to notice, too busy walking past or speaking in hushed tones. But I did, and it made me feel held. And on some nights like this one, when the moon rides high and the fire burns gentle, I feel those colors again, not with my eyes, but somewhere deeper, somewhere beneath the ribs. A kind of memory that glows, not brightly but steadily, like a coal cupped in both hands. That's what these moments are to me, my friend. Coals, softly burning in the dark. They do not shout, they do not blaze, but they last. They stay with you, warming the bones of memory when the night grows long. You know, when I was younger, I thought meaning came from great acts, loud choices, bold declarations. But now I believe it comes from attention, from noticing the robin, feeding her not to tame her, but to share a moment, from sitting in silence with a librarian beneath the stars, from remembering the mason's secret stars, and the creak of ancient wood, and the way firelight hums against stone. It's not the grandeur that stays with us. It's the quiet things, the honest things, the small discoveries made with slow breath and open hands. And you, dear one, have listened so patiently. I thank you for that. For letting me remember out loud, for walking with me through these tender corridors of thought, for understanding that sometimes the softest stories are the ones that matter most. The night holds us now, gently. The fire burns on. Let's sit with these memories a little longer, shall we? No need to speak. You, stubby. It's a comfort to rest here with you, truly. No reason to be anywhere else. No pull or pressing thought, no voice calling us away. Just the fire, the quiet and the old rhythm of breath between us. I've had much time to think, you know, about what peace truly is. Not the word they etch on walls or carry in banners. Not the treaty or the silence that follows a storm. No, not that kind. I mean the real sort. The kind that settles into your bones and doesn't ask you to be anything but what you already are. That kind is rarer and quieter still. I used to think peace was something you won, that if you were noble enough, brave enough, if you endured long enough, it would be handed to you like a reward at the end of struggle. But now I know better. Peace isn't a prize, it's a practice, a slow, steady tending of something small and precious, like a flame. You've watched it tonight, haven't you? The way it leans this way and that in the breeze, never angry, never still, just adjusting, accepting. It doesn't fight the wind, it just continues, flickering with grace. You can learn a great deal from flame if you watch long enough, how it survives, not through strength, but through patience, how it gives, gently, how it warms without taking, and how it endures, not in defiance, but in harmony. I've tried to live more like that, in these later years, to bend rather than resist, to glow rather than burn, to offer warmth when I can, and not ask more from the world than what it's ready to give. And I find when I do that, I'm into peace. Peace is not earned through great gestures, my dear friend. No ceremony grants it, no acclaim secures it. Instead, it slips in through the cracks, in the way we fold our cloaks just so before sleep, in how we refill a water basin without being asked, in lighting a fire for someone who may never know your name. It lives in the pauses, in the acts no one sees. And you belong to that peace. You carry it even if you don't yet know it, not because of what you've done or failed to do, but because of who you are when the world falls quiet, when no one is watching, when you are simply breathing. That version of you, the one who listens to silence without filling it, who sits beside a friend without needing to explain, who sees the shape of a leaf or the curve of smoke and lets it be enough. That is the truest one, and that is the you I see tonight. You belong here, not because of a role you play or a debt you carry, not because you've earned a place by the fire, but because peace doesn't need justification. It only asks that you be willing to receive it. Let yourself rest, my friend. Let yourself be held, not by arms, but by the world itself, by the soft weight of dusk, by the familiar hush of stone and moss, by the rhythm of a story without an ending. I know how easy it is to forget, to believe that stillness is wasted, or that rest must be justified by effort. But listen closely. Can you hear it? The way the night holds you without condition. The way the breeze carries not demands but lullabies. The way the earth cradles your shape without asking who you were before. Here, in this quiet, you are not a task to complete. You are not a problem to solve. You are simply welcome. And I'll tell you something. Since we're speaking plainly now, I've lived long enough to know that peace, real peace, is not about removing sorrow or shielding yourself from the world. It's about making a place wide enough for both joy and ache to sit beside each other, without rushing one out the door. There were seasons when I carried grief like armor, wore it over every joy, thought that if I stayed still too long, the weight of what I'd lost would catch up to me. But that's the thing. Grief is patient. It will sit beside you no matter how fast you run. What I've learned is that it can sit beside peace too. They don't have to fight for the same space. In fact, I think they understand each other better than most. So if you're carrying anything tonight, quiet sorrows, old hopes, gentle longings you've not spoken aloud, let them be here too. You don't need to lay them down unless you wish to. Just allow them a seat beside the fire. Let them warm their hands and rest. They've traveled far, after all. I once met a monk who told me that tending to your spirit is like sweeping the same courtyard each morning. Leaves will fall again, dust will gather, but the act of sweeping is not meant to finish anything. It is meant to remind you that this place, this heart of yours, is worthy of care every day, even when no one else walks its stones. That's what we're doing now, in a way, tending the courtyard, with our words, with our breath, with our shared quiet. And you are doing beautifully. You've given this moment your presence. You've let stillness in. You've breathed in the firelight and let your shoulders ease just a little more with each breath. That is no small thing. That is peace, blooming. It's in the way you listen, not just to me, but to the world, to the way the flames snap gently, how the river sighs, how the stars hum against the dark. You may not hear them with your ears, but you feel them. You feel them like the weight of a warm blanket over your legs, or the way light lingers on closed eyes. And in that stillness you become part of the peace you seek. You don't have to do more than this. You don't have to prove your worth to the night. It already knows you. It already welcomes you. Let that sink in slowly, like rain into thirsty soil. You are welcome, as you are, not for your strength, not for your stories, not for the things you've carried or the ones you've let go. You are welcome because you are here, because you showed up to this quiet, because you've allowed yourself, if only for a little while, to stop. The world beyond the walls can wait. It will be there tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. But this moment, this soft breath between you and the stars is precious. It is unrepeatable, and it belongs entirely to you. So let's stay here just a little longer. Let the fire burn steady. Let your hands relax in your lap. Let your eyes grow heavier with each flicker of light. The stones behind us are warm. The sky above is wide. And peace is not far, nor hidden. It is here, in you, in me, in the hush between words. And when you are ready, truly ready, you may let sleep gather around you like a cloak. But until then, till be here, beside you, keeping watch, tending the flame, and holding this quiet, just for us. Listen to that. Would you? The fire's voice is changing now, softer, slower, each crackle folding into the next, like a lullaby that's almost finished. It's no longer trying to be flame, it's content to be ember, content to rest. I know the feeling well. The warmth still reaches us, but gentler now, like a memory warming the edge of a dream. I've pulled my cloak a little closer, just enough to hold the heat at my shoulders. The fabric smells of cedar and smoke and years of long, quiet nights, just like this one. I suppose you might say it's well seasoned, like old bread or old wood, or perhaps like me. And look, see how the castle's windows have dimmed. A few lights remain, flickering softly behind thick glass, but most have surrendered to sleep. The stones above us no longer shimmer in amber. They've turned silver now, bathed in the full moon's light. That pale glow rests on every surface, on rooftops, on walls, on the water's edge. It's not bright, not piercing, just enough to remind the world that it's still being watched, gently, lovingly. Yes, they've stayed longer than most, you know. Most come and go like the breeze, drifting through for a few words and a glimpse of firelight before vanishing back into the shadows. And that's all right. The fire welcomes all for as long as they wish to sit near. But you've remained quietly, kindly, without need for explanation or entertainment. And that means more to me than I can easily say. You've let the silence stretch. You've breathed with it. You've honored it. That's a rare gift, my dear friend. Rarer than gold, rarer than praise. And I thank you for it. This moment now, this hush between flame and ash, is my favorite part of the night. There's nothing left to tend, nothing to wait for, only the slow dimming of the world, and the way it curls in on itself like a sleeping cat. Even the stars seem to exhale more slowly now. You can feel it, can't you? The gentle drawing down of the earth, the way the grasses grow heavy with dew, and the soil cools beneath your feet. The trees hush their rustling. The wind slows its whispering, as if careful not to wake those already dreaming. And here we are, still awake, but only just. This is the time I often sit in reflection, not deep thoughts or difficult questions, just noticing, letting things settle, feeling the way the day has softened, and how night folds its arms around all the living things. The embers remind me of that. They no longer leap or crack, they glow, a glow that feels older than flame, older than the hearth itself. It's the kind of light that doesn't insist. It simply offers itself, and trusts you'll take what you need. I think there's wisdom in that, in not shining to be seen, in glowing because it feels right to glow. Some nights when I sit here alone, I let my thoughts wander in wide circles, not chasing anything, just drifting like leaves on slow-moving water. I think about the softness of snow before it falls. I think about the quiet inside a library when no one's turned a page for hours. I think about footsteps left in frost, and how the earth always smooths them out again, given time. But tonight with you here beside me, I think only of presence, of this fire, this cloak, this breath, this moment. We ask so much of ourselves, don't we? Even in rest there's that little voice wondering if we've earned it. But here, under this moon, with the fire near its end, there's no need for justification. Peace doesn't require proof. It only requires that you pause long enough to feel it. And you have. That is enough. I don't know what the world has asked of you lately, what burdens you've carried, what words were spoken over you when no one else was listening. But I do know this, none of that matters here. Not in this hour, not in this place. Here, The only thing asked of you is nothing. Not effort, not conversation, not change, just breath, just stillness, just being. Let your thoughts slow. Let your shoulders rest heavier against your spine. Let your eyes drift, not because they must, but because the fire and the moon have made it safe to do so. You're held here, you know, even in silence, even in shadow. The fire may be fading, but the warmth lingers, and that warmth remembers you, not by title, not by what you've done, but by how gently you've shown up, how quietly you've stayed. That is something sacred. When I was younger, I believed rest was the reward that came after the hard parts, a prize you earned. But the truth is simpler. Rest is your right, as a living soul, and peace, when you allow it, will always find its way back to you. Even now, my limbs grow heavier, not with weariness, but with calm, a slowness that comes when all has been said that needs saying, when the body no longer braces, and the mind no longer searches. That's where I am, dear one, and I think perhaps you're nearly there too. Let this moment be your pillow. Let my voice be your coverlet. Let the fire's last breath tuck you in. You Zaf, done enough. You are enough. And the world, though wide, though wild, can wait until tomorrow. Tonight it is quiet. Tonight you are safe. And tonight you are not alone. Close your eyes if they ask to close, or leave them open and soft, watching the embers like fireflies settling into sleep. Either way, the night will hold you. I'll sit here a while longer, just to make sure the fire doesn't feel alone in its final glow. You don't need to stay awake for that. You've already stayed longer than most, and you've given me a gift more precious than gold, your presence. So rest now, and let the moonlight carry you the rest of the way. Shh. Just there now, you've made it to the quietest part of the night. The hour when even the moon holds its breath. The fire has gone soft, barely more than a hum of heat, and the faintest glow like an ember remembering what it once was. But still, you fear here, not just present, but resting. Not just near, but safe. I want you to know, truly know, that your being here has meant something. You didn't rush. You didn't fill the silence. You simply sat. You stayed. And that is the most generous kind of company. It's easy to come and go, to drift in and out like the breeze, but to remain, to let your breath match the rhythm of the flame, to let your thoughts grow soft and your heart unfold without a word, that is something rare. So I thank you, not for listening, but for allowing yourself to be heard, in silence. And now, before sleep takes you, let me share one last thing. I believe that flame, once shared, never truly dies. It might dim, grow small, even slip from sight, but it carries on somewhere, in the memory of warmth, in the hush it leaves behind, in the way it shaped the darkness while it lasted. And this fire, this space between us tonight, it will live in that same way, quietly, lovingly. You may not remember every word we spoke, but your heart will remember the peace. It will remember being unburdened. It will remember being welcome. And whenever you need to return, whether in days or seasons, or only in dreams, this fire will be here, even if only as a flicker behind your eyelids, even if only as a feeling in your chest when the world grows loud again. Because this place was never about walls or stones. It was about presence, yours, mine, ours. And that kind of presence does not vanish. It rests like a lantern waiting to be lit again. So sleep now, my friend. Let your breath deepen. Let your limbs grow heavier than thought. Let the weight of wakefulness fall from your shoulders like a cloak unfastened. You've done all you need to do. The stars will keep their course. The castle will sleep in silver stillness. And well, I'll stay a while longer, if that's all right. Watching the last of the embers settle, holding the space just as you held it with me. The stars will stretches, thous more stows the stave and day. You'll always have a place beside this fire. Not just tonight. Always. Sleep deeply now. You are safe. You are warm. And you are loved.